National Chung Hsing University's research explores Taiwanese termites and termite mushroom. In our feature report, we look at the role of suicide care counselors in preventing suicide and self-harm. Welcome to DaAi Headlines. I'm Siri Su. Thank you for joining us. In Taiwan, there's a group of researchers at National Chung Hsing University. They dedicate themselves to researching Taiwanese termites and their relationship to the termite mushroom. And surprisingly, the research can also help the rehabilitation work of pangolins.
We'll need to find the termite mushroom, because where there's termite mushroom, there will definitely be termites' nests below it.
With the tools prepared, they begin their search for termites. The experts are very certain that where there is termite mushrooms, there will definitely be termites.
The termites will first build their nest. Then the termite mushroom will grow from the nest at this time of the year.
As expected, when they start digging, the termites rush out from their nests. The National Chung Hsing University Department of Entomology has been researching the symbiosis between Taiwan's native termites and the termite mushroom. The results are then used for the rehabilitation of pangolins at the Taipei Zoo.
It's very hard to obtain ants and termites. It's impossible to obtain sufficient amount of ants to be provided as food for the pangolins.
A termite weighs around 2 to 3 milligrams. 1,000 termites will be around 2 to 3 grams. A pangolin weighs 5 to 8 kilos, so you can imagine the amount of ants a pangolin needs to consume for it to sustain itself.
According to research, the amino acid in the termite mushroom is the main source of nutrient for the native Taiwanese termites. Therefore, by refining the nutrients from the mushroom, the pangolins are able to grow healthily.
The termite mushroom comb is relatively easy to acquire compared to termites. So we're thinking in the future, if the nutritional value of these termite mushrooms are the same as termites, can we use these termite mushroom combs to replace the native Taiwanese termites?
In the market, the termite mushrooms, which cost $7 for 600 grams, are actually grown by the native Taiwanese termites. The termites will feast on fallen leaves, branches, and spores. Their waste will then turn into a bacterial comb. The spores, which are not digested, will then grow into mushrooms. When the spores are formed by the mushroom, it will then become the food source of the termite, forming a special agricultural cycle.
So the spores and these fallen leaves and branches will be mixed in the stomachs of the termites. These can be planted. Yes, the termite mushroom will grow out.
Do not look down on termites. There are only 3 types of insects that have agricultural purpose on the planet, and termites have been on the earth for 30 million years, while the agricultural history of humans only dates back to tens of thousands of years only. NCHU entomology professor Li Houfeng has led a group of students to study these termites. For research purposes, they have become termite hunters, and sometimes when they are unlucky, they'll suffer from the painful bites of the termites.
When the termites bite, they will secrete some substance, which will stimulate the wound and will cause much pain.
As we head into the laboratory, there's a termite farm. In each test tube is a small family of termites, and all of them have their own identities labeled. However, the main event is stored inside the fridge. Inside the box is the giant of termites, the soldier termite. The soldier termite is 2 cm long, and experts say that if one of these has a bite on a person, it will tear the skin and bleed.
Different termites have different levels. Their forms are different, but worker termites look very similar.
All of a sudden, we're able to hear some noises. These noises are made by the soldier termites knocking their heads, warning us not to disrupt them.
When the enemy is approaching, the termites will use vibrations to notify the other friendly termites inside the nest that the enemy is coming.
Although these soldier termites have strong physique, but their natural habitat is high up in the mountains. Therefore, they cannot survive while they leave the fridge. There has always been the misunderstanding that termites will destroy plants. However, as nature's decomposers, termites are responsible of transporting the nutrients on the ground into the earth. So next time when we meet these little creatures outside, we should break the stereotype and better understand them.
In Taoyuan's Zhongfu community, the first recycling act began with Huzhong Zumei. Starting from 1997 at the age of 70, she pushed a cart around while collecting recyclables. Then the neighborhood joined in as they all recycled at Huzhong Zumei's land. Until 2013, Huzhong Zumei passed away, but her seed of goodness continued to nourish the community. In 2015, city recycling volunteers once again established the Xinzhongfu Recycling Station. Doing recycling saves lives. By selling this, we can save someone. Because of this phrase, she worked hard until the last moment. She didn't need medication since she got healthier.
就整个身体就好起来了。大家讲话，有恋爱会更做更身体更好更少年。
Look up a bit, this is our old Bodhisattva. She has been doing recycling for 14 years. This place is hers. It is Granny Hu's land.
The son thought that since his mother had the wish to recycle, he used his house to trade with his brother, bringing the empty lot into use as a recycling station.
Her filial son, along with the mother's determination, brings the start of Taoyuan's Zhongfu Recycling Station. The drive to continue doing recycling is fueled by the appreciation towards one another.
When she sees young people out here doing recycling, she's moved and seriously does recycling. These young people moved Granny Hu. She pushes the cart every day, giving them the chance to do recycling on weekends.
Everyone at the recycling station follows Granny Hu.
I saw a person kneeling over there sorting the paper seriously. At this point, I was very moved by her actions.
Granny Hu's recycling station started from 1997, but was paused in 2013 because of her passing at the longevity of 90. But the steps to do recycling in the community didn't stop. It continued as Tzu Chi volunteer Wu bought the land and continued the legacy.
Iron here are from Nantou. During the great earthquake of September 21st, we built the Granny Hu Recycling Station. And now the iron came to our Xinzhongfu Recycling Station, giving the material a continuation.
Although things might have changed, what remained the same is the role model Granny Hu left for her people.
Granny Hu once said that the little paper pieces can be picked up and it can be sold to help Tzu Chi, so we must not waste it.
Granny Hu's path is continued by volunteers now.
I have recycled for 11 years. Granny Hu also did recycling from 1998 until now.
Granny Hu's care to everyone in the past is continued by current volunteers.
The
new recycling station is spacious, as it not only does the task of recycling, but has space for gatherings, furthering the bonding of the community. Volunteer Li Liqing is specialized in calligraphy as she teaches others.
This way, while everyone finishes doing recycling, we may bond with one another. So now we wouldn't immediately go home right after we do recycling.
This home will never be gone. Volunteers take over Granny Hu's legacy with love, doing good deeds to safeguard our environment.
一朵早，水都好，气温饱，天天好，多逍遥，没烦恼，天天忙忙，永不老，永不老，永不老。
In China, 71-year-old volunteer Xu Jiazhen lives in Xiamen, Fujian. 10 years ago, her family owed debt, and she was so worried that her memory deteriorated. Later, her niece took her to participate in Tzu Chi doing recycling. Over the years, she has volunteered diligently. In addition, her health condition has gradually recovered.
当时我忘记了讲一下，我就飘出去了，就没忘记了。那现在就人家讲一句，我就会入心，我记在里面。
71 years old Xu Jiazhen confidently teaches classification experience at a recycling station. However, she was not like that 10 years ago.
She had brain disease at that time. She took 7 or 8 bus rides to get to the destination. Because she got on the wrong bus, after she found she was in the wrong bus, she got out of the bus and took another bus. That's why she took 7 or 8 rides in wrong buses to get to the destination.
Chen Zhihong did not want her aunt, Xu Jiazhen's retirement life, be wasted, so she took her to join Tzu Chi, starting from recycling. It was Huang Bihua, a senior volunteer, who taught her how to sort recyclables.
This is placed in the glass bottle area. You may take time. You're just starting to learn and you'll be more nervous. It's okay to do it slowly. You can think where the item goes first.
Xu Jiazhen did not expect that it would be 8 years since she started recycling. Now even her daughter and son-in-law are the best helpers.
Under the influence of my mother-in-law, we also feel that recycling is a way to spread love. So if everyone is actively participating, I believe that the earth will be better and better.
Due to Xu Jiazhen's diligent recycling, flexible use of her hands and brain function, her previous memory decline has improved. At the recycling station, she has also become a teacher for new volunteers.
Wash this plastic bag carefully and then dry it. These items can be recycled.
我自己一个人的时候，我自己说不能再依赖别人了，自己要抓紧把头脑绷紧，一次一次自己要严格自己要求自己，慢慢就变成恢复了。
Facing the high suicide rate, Taiwan had established TSOS since 2009. It plans out suicide prevention as the government sent out suicide care counselors in different cities. Focusing on suicidal citizens, the care counselors will call and visit the suicidal people. But the number of suicidal people is approximately 30,000, and there are only 170 counselors in each city. For the children who grew up in poor or child abuse families, they face enormous amounts of mental pressure, becoming the high-risk group. This group requires long-term counseling. Let's take a look at the process. The first drawing that Xiao Chen made, she drew a red background along with an alcohol bottle. In the afternoon when she goes home, her father is often drunk.
In second year of elementary school, I go by myself. The same goes for after-school classes. And then I go home by myself.
Xiao Qian, who grew up in a single-parent family, and due to her father's issues, she was forced to face life challenges alone. With no one to talk to, her emotions fell rock bottom.
When I was little, I often feel like I shouldn't be born at all, because after my birth, my parents divorced. This is also why my father drank a lot. I think he used alcohol to forget the past.
Xiao Qian's father drank too much as he suffered a stroke, going into a vegetative state. At that moment, Xiao Qian was only 13 years old. She was moved to the center by TFCF. During the stage of puberty, she self-harmed twice.
I think having self-harm acts will lead to people caring about you. Others will ask how you are and so forth.
80% of people attempting suicide will ask for help. They want people to see that they want to die in the hope of the help. If parents and teachers understand the signals, then the person can be saved.
TFCF workers understood Xiao Qian's request for help as they start their long-term mental counseling with her.
At TFCF, many people care about you and take care of you. It's like wings surrounding and covering me.
Teenagers like Xiao Qian are accompanied and counseled by teachers and social workers during school seasons. But if the group is graduate students and adults, the government has set up TSPC to prevent suicide. We call them the suicide care counselors.
Police units will report to us suicidal risk cases to us, and the TSPC suicide care counselors will head out to care for these individuals.
The citizens' attempts to suicide alarms us that within a year the next attempt's mortality rate is 200 or 300 times more compared to the average person. So this group of people is the high-risk group. We must care and track further details.
Every year, 30,000 people report suicidal thoughts, but in Taiwan, there are only 170 suicide care counselors. Therefore, each suicide care counselor takes on 70 or more suicide cases.
The workers have great pressure and workload, so it's important to know how to utilize the other communities' physiological counseling and incorporating that in our work.
这件事情让你伤害蛮大的，可以说说看。
还有，你最近还有出现想要伤害自己的念头吗？
The person that we cared for had a suicide attempt and was rescued, but after a week he passed away, which is the second suicide attempt. This made me even put more mental weight on each case. We must immediately go out and care for suicidal people.
This job requires high amounts of skill sets and experience, as the suicide care counselors walk on ice with suicidal people. However, such a profession had seen a decrease in applicants due to a low raise in pay. Workers receive $1,000 USD per month.
The pay, high or low, isn't a major issue. The main issue is to face each case attempt to suicide.
We have to firstly visit the case personnel, and when we come back, we have to look at records of home visit and telephone codes. Afterwards, we have plenty of educational trainings.
The most taboo thing about interacting with a suicidal person is that we tell them too many general principles. So we usually tell them that we stand with them and slowly talk it out.
Caring with sincerity, this is to save a life that is on its edge. This phrase has proven on Xiao Qian's case. The worldview had turned from its gray gloominess to a bright, vibrant color. As long as the mentality changed, everything changes.
我想要看看我10年后我会在哪里做什么事情呢？
我们去看看吧。
那我们要怎么去呢？
我有任意门。
The once depressed and crying girl had changed into a happy hairstylist 10 years later.
Suicide is a form of giving up on life. If we are willing to change and adjust to a new lifestyle, then you will be saved.
Early discovered cases receive care greatly reduces risks of suicide and prevents further attempts as there is no second chance in life. From families, schools, to society, proper psychological counseling is needed, letting everyone know that suicide cannot solve issues, but creates more issues.
听是一件很简单又很难，为什么？
In Taiwan, Yaman's brain artery had ruptured, leading to internal bleeding. Even if the surgery is successful, he could still be in a vegetative state. Fortunately, the medical team at Daling Tzu Chi Hospital conducted an emergency surgery on him, saving his life. Then, with the mindful care of the ICU team, he regained his health.
他也跟我讲说，他头有点晕。
He told me that he had a headache. I thought he had a cold, so I gave him some painkillers. Then, at around 6:30, he began to vomit. We heard the sound and went upstairs. He was weak and limp.
我们听到声音上去看，然后他就全身瘫软。
Jian Tingyu began to vomit and became weak, so his family sent him to the hospital.
上车子，然后在路程当中，他就喊了一声我头。
During the ride in the car, he screamed, "My head hurts." After they carried him inside, he had a seizure and his limbs became stiff. Then, he became unconscious. As I talked with him, he was unconscious.
Detailed checkups have revealed that Tingyu's brain blood vessels had developed abnormally. The blood vessels ruptured, and the bleeding led to increase in brain pressure.
那电脑断层一做下去，哇，他整个右边的脑部都呈现一个大肿。
With the CT scan, we discovered that his right brain had intensive bleeding and swelling. When I first went to see Tingyu, his life was in danger. Why? Because his pupils had diluted. Usually, normal people's pupils dilute when their brainstem is affected. Under such circumstances, if we do not quickly respond to it, his brain will be dead or he will die.
脑死，再不然就是死亡。
Darling Tzu Chi Hospital neurosurgeon Wu Zongxian recalls that when he conducted the surgery on Jian Tingyu, he faced many difficulties.
就是本身动静畸形在本身如果没有破的话，再开刀本来就不是。
In the case of artery malformation, if the blood vessels do not rupture, the surgery would be a difficult one. In Tingyu's case, when I opened up his scalp, blood kept coming out, so his blood pressure kept dropping. On that day, as I was conducting the surgery, I kept asking them to maintain his blood pressure. Then, we gave him blood transfusion. Later, we found the abnormal arteries and stopped the bleeding. I can say that on that day, I applied every skill I've learned.
把毕生所学都用上去了。
After the 4-hour emergency surgery, Jian Tingyu's brain bleeding stopped.
医生跟我说
The doctor told me that he had never seen such a large amount of bleeding. Then he said that he might not be able to save his life. Even if his life is saved, he might not wake up. Even if he can't wake up, from looking at the X-ray, his 4 limbs might be paralyzed.
看起来应该四肢都会瘫痪。
As Jian Tingyu's condition remained unstable after the surgery, he had to stay in ICU.
整个大夜真的很不好。
The nighttime was difficult to endure, and the patient's family refused to go home. I told them that Jian is your child, and he is also like our child. We can communicate using mobile phones. You should go home to rest, as it is a long-term battle. Since I am on duty during the night, I will safeguard him here.
Compared to regular wards, ICU's medical care requires the cooperation of many professionals. Since Tingyu cannot cough by himself, Dr. Fan Wenling arranged for him to undergo Spartan suction to avoid lung infection.
后来他的痰也比较容易出来之后，后续
As it got easier to suck out his phlegm, the chance of infection also decreased. When he transferred to a regular ward, he could get off the bed. I gave him apples. Why apples? Because it means safety and auspicious. When I visited him, his mother said, "Tingyu, Father Fan has come to see you." He held my hand. He stood up. He was originally in a wheelchair, but he stood up and held my hand. When he held my hand, I almost cried. I felt like I witnessed how someone was reborn.
Having experienced intracranial bleeding and undergone a brain surgery, Jian Tingyu's recovering situation has amazed his family.
After this incident, how have I changed? If there is any change, it will be that I started to donate blood. My child needed other people's blood, so I can also help other people, so I said yes, I can donate blood. Later, I learned that on the night of the surgery, he used more than 8,000 cc of blood. There's about more than 4,000 cc of blood in a person, so he has used 2 people's blood.
Facing an aging society, Darling Tzu Chi Hospital will uphold its initial aspiration and safeguard the health of Jiayi residents. Tzu Chi Hospital has set up long-term care center for seniors. To celebrate Mid-Autumn Festival, they have held a gathering to promote vegetarianism. We'll leave you with these images. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.